Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Nicky Billou, international best-selling author of 10 published books, 2 of them New York Times bestsellers, sought-after inspirational speaker, hosted 2 podcasts, and the founder of the eCircle Academy Mastermind and Educational Program. I am super excited about this because I know that he could have a transformational effect for sure. So with that, welcome, Nicky, and thanks for joining us.
Brett, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you. Been looking forward to this one for a while. So we obviously have a lot of ground to cover. I have a ton of things I want to ask you, but just so we get off on the right foot, I know that you've accomplished so much. Can you tell us how you got to where you are? Like, what is your backstory?
Great question. I'm originally actually an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, and it turned my life upside down. And my late father, God rest his soul, he and my mom, they could see the writing on the wall that this was no longer going to be a place to raise a Christian family. So they sat down, they planned, and they said to themselves, and then later on to us, that we are going to leave Iran temporarily, they said it at the time, but we're going to need to leave Iran and live elsewhere until all this blows over. And this was the cataclysm of the revolution. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about the revolution. I doubt you've lived through a revolution, but it is an intense experience. People are getting shot, killed. The world is changing. The order's changing all around you. But me, I was 11. I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends, and I was really upset. And I was always like dreaming of going back, but we didn't, obviously. And later on, though, as I got older, I started to see the wisdom of my mom and dad's prescience of seeing what Iran could turn into and how much love and courage it took for them to leave where they'd lived all their lives to come to a new country. And we settled eventually where I live now, which is in Toronto, Canada. And as a result of all this, I became a committed champion for individual freedom. I believe inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. God put us here on this earth to be free and to march to the tune of our own drummer, right? And I just started to read books about it. I started to really appreciate entrepreneurship because it's based on a bedrock of economic freedom, obviously. And that's been kind of my mantra. Freedom, free expression, and free enterprise. And if you look back into my life, my late father, he was a big fan of freedom and he was an entrepreneur. So Brett, if you knew him, you would love this man. If you were trying to find a job, you were his pal. He'd sit you down in his office. He'd call all his entrepreneur buddies, and he would ethically manipulate them until one of them gave you a job. You know what I mean? If you were trying to start a business, he'd sit down with you and give you everything he had to help you succeed, even if you were going into a competitive space with him, because he didn't really believe in competition, right? He'd even get you access to capital. He might even invest in the business himself. He'd get you access to clients. That's what he was like. And if you were a friend and you were trying to buy a car or a house and you didn't quite have enough money, he was very patrician and patriarchal in that way. He would just give you this loan to top you up so you could buy the car or the house. And then when you tried to pay him back later, he wouldn't let you pay back. Never let you pay back. It's crazy, right? And I have people who hear this and go, come on, man, nobody's really like that, right? And I go, no, for real. My dad, the late, great Napoleon Billou, he was really like that. They go, why? Why would he do that? The more cynical and skeptical. I go, well, first of all, man, he was a devout Christian, okay? He's a devout Christian. I don't know if you can see my shirt, right? But some biblical scripture over here on my shirt, right? And so Dad believed that he had been blessed by God Almighty, and it was his duty and obligation to share those blessings with other people. Wow. He took that very seriously. Secondly, he did it because he could. He was rich. Yeah. He had the funds. And I wanted to be like my dad. My dad was my hero. I wanted people to look up to me. I wanted to be somebody who was a helper to his fellow man. That's who amazing. I wanted to be.
But
And the truth of the matter is, brother, my dad would come to me and he'd say to me every day, and this informs my business worldview, son, life is about people. I go, okay, Dad. He said, son, business is about people, not money, people. I'm like, Dad, what? But money, you need money to do business. He goes, yeah, that's true, but you need people to need money. What's business? You solve problems for people for a profit. Imagine a Venn diagram, problems, people, profit, and then where all three intersect, that's the purpose of business. There's 4 P's there. And Dad would always say to me, listen, son, everybody needs somebody to believe in them. You need it, I need it. You know, the person in front of you, that's someone's father, that's someone's son, that's someone's brother, that's someone's husband. That's a hero to somebody. Maybe they've been like cheated by someone just like you in business. It's your job to restore their faith in humanity, and it's your job to believe in them, because that little spark of belief, son, that little spark will steady their wobble, will turn into a roaring fire of belief, and that's when people's lives change. And like, listen, I appreciate all the wonderful things you've said about me. I really appreciate it, but I don't think that makes me anybody special. There's a lot of people who've done that and more. But what I take a lot of pride in is I'm Nicky Billou's son, and I believe in people. Professionally, what I do is I professionally believe in people.
It really is. I mean, you know, the bottom line is everything is relationships, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we all share the human experience, and you don't get from one end to the other without being with other people and involving other people in that journey. And so I think it's really powerful. It's also, you know, really, you know, prophetic that he would, you know, feel all that and be able to share that with you in a way that you embodied it yourself. I think that's awesome. I mean, so you've obviously experienced a lot of success. You've done a lot of things, and you've helped others do it too. What do you think the secret or the formula is for that?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, man, is believe in people. Business success is not a solo endeavor. You can't be the Unabomber, you know, in the hills and the mountains in Montana and be successful. You need people. And you got to believe in people. There's a lot of good people out there. And there's a lot of people that have been hurt by others. And one of the things that I teach, right, I got a lot of great clients that are entrepreneurs. And these are good humans with amazing morals, amazing ethics, but low sales and marketing skills, right? And one of the reasons is they don't want to be seen as that pushy guy in sales.
I do.
You know what I mean? I don't want to be reeking of commission breath when I walk into a room, right? I don't want to push someone to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. And you know what? It is disgusting. But that attitude, unfortunately, prevents them from genuinely helping people they could help who need their help, because they don't want to be perceived a certain way. And the mistake is they put all the attention on themselves. So I had a client, okay, and this client, she was like a coach that helped people deal with thorny kind of internal knots, you know, issues from childhood that were getting in the way. And she would not go after business for that reason. And she would make $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month. She spent all this money trying to build this great big sales funnel, marketing funnel, ads, 120 grand, zero return. Okay. And she says, oh, I don't know how to, you know, I don't know what to do. I said, look, you're putting all this attention on you. First of all, these people, stop spending money on this because it's not working, right? They're charlatan marketers, I call them. People who have low ethics and morals by high sales and marketing skills, and they don't care if they deliver. So stop spending money on them. Second thing we said to her, and I said to her directly, is I said, look, you are nervous because all the attention is on you. I wonder if they're going to like me. I wonder if they're going to want to do business with me. I wonder, like all this, it's just building up this nervous energy, and these people can sense that, and they don't know why, but they're going to pull away from you. Put the attention on them. Instead of, I wonder if they're going to like me or do business with me, go, I wonder who this person is. What pain have they gone through? What's the consequences of them not solving their problem? You put all the attention on them and none on you, they're going to feel that, because everybody needs someone to believe in them and care about them. And this woman, right, making $500, $1,000, $2,000 on a good month, started to do that. And that alone took her to 10 grand a month.
Wow. Yeah.
That alone. Now, the other thing was her messaging sucked. And you need to have good messaging.
Yeah,
sucked is a
absolutely.
technical term, right?
Inside jargon for the biz. Yeah.
So, right, inside jargon, exactly. So, we were speaking to her and we said, look, you're trying to be all things to all people. Stop. So she started to say, okay, I'm going to help you if you are feeling overwhelmed and stuck and you know it's coming from within, but you don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to get you unstuck. So that's a whole lot of people in business, right? And a whole lot of them go, yeah, I'm feeling stuck. Yeah, I know it's something inside. It's not my skill set. It's some BS inside. So that messaging started to work. And then she went from 10K a month to 20K a month. And then she showed me her year over year on her Infusionsoft, or as I used to call it, Confusionsoft, right? So January the previous year, before she worked with us, it was $532. January the year she worked with us, a year later, it was $52,000 and change. So a not 100% increase, not 1,000% increase, but a 10,000% increase, brother. That's 100-fold. And this lady, like, she's a wonderful person. Don't get me wrong, amazing human being, but she's nobody special. She doesn't have like God-given like skills in sales and marketing, or God-given skills in mesmerizing people and hypnotizing them. She's just a good person with a big heart who learned how to speak properly with a strong message to people, and she stopped focusing on herself, and she stopped spending money on these so-called gurus and charlatan marketers that didn't care about her. Amazing. That's what it took.
So what do you think, in your experience, when you've worked with people and sort of been around entrepreneurs, what do you think is the biggest thing that holds them back ultimately from reaching their potential and getting to where they want to be? You think it's the fact that they're afraid to sell, or
that is such a good question.
Is it more complicated than that?
That is such a great question. It is yes, and it's more complicated than that. Look, can I just be super honest with everyone listening here, Brett? Yourself included here. Super honest, right? As opposed to lying to you.
We prefer that.
Right? But yeah. So, brother, if you're in business, you must sell. If you're in business, you must sell. Any belief contrary to that is crazy. It's like believing in unicorns and fairies. I'm not saying those aren't cool fantasies, but they're not real.
Yeah. Right?
They're not real. One of my favorite writers is P.J. O'Rourke. He's passed away. Sure. He used to write satirical political humor. P.J. O'Rourke, okay? He was a 60s lefty who became a conservative later in life. And he had a chapter in one of his books. It's called The Republican Party Reptile. He said the difference between God and Santa Claus. And he said, look, Santa Claus is a great guy. You know, he gives you presents. You know, he makes life easy for you. He's an amazing guy. Santa Claus is avuncular. He's fun. He's jovial. That God fellow, man, you know, he's not nearly as nice as Santa Claus. He's like Old Testament. He's like hard on you, and he's rough on you, and he doesn't try to make things better or give you presents. He gives you lessons and toughness. He said, Santa Claus is better than God in every respect except one. And I'm like reading this, and, you know, then you turn over the next page, and he said, and then this is what he said: there is no such thing as Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's...
And in business, there is no such thing as a business without selling. If you are not selling, you have a hobby, not a business. Let me repeat that. If you are not selling, you have a hobby, not a business. Get over yourself. Learn to sell. To sell is to serve. To sell is to serve.
I think a lot of people
sell is
feel
to
as though if
serve.
they get something from it for some reason, there's something disingenuous about it. But the reality of it is, we all buy and sell things every day anyway. And if they're things that we need and that actually help, and you believe in your product or your service, there isn't any reason to be shy about it. You know, so I completely understand that. I completely see where you're going. You've interviewed and spoken with some of the world's top thought leaders. I don't want you to have to pick favorites, but I am curious. Can you tell us one or two that you enjoyed the most?
Look, I've enjoyed so many. I interviewed Robert Cialdini, the author of Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. That is one scary smart man. And his understanding of how to influence people is next level. Like he's in a category of one. That was a fascinating conversation, and I recommend everybody listen to that interview. I've interviewed the great Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert cartoons, twice. That is the smartest man I've ever interviewed. Wow. He is scary smart as well. And what he has to say, he also talks about persuasion and influence. And he's really, really good at it, but from a completely different space. Mark Von Musser, who was Tony Robbins' director of coaching and training for 5 years and helped Tony add $150 million to his overall company sales. I've had him on more than any other guest. He's become a friend. Highly recommend you listen to any of the interviews I've done with Mark. He's that good. John Maxwell, Mr. Leadership himself.
The law of
great
the
guy.
Yeah.
I had on Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul. Great guys as well. These are all fantastic individuals. And I've had some profiles in courage. I had Tamara Lick, who was a Métis grandmother, who was one of the organizers of Canada's famous Freedom Convoy of trucks that broke the backs of tyranny in Canada during the COVID lockdowns. Exciting. She is a true profile in courage.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed interviewing her as well.
So one of the books that you wrote is Finish Line Thinking. And I have to say, I love the title. It caught me right away. Yeah. Can you tell us what that means and what it's all about?
Well, here, So this is the second edition of the book. And I'll quote from the back of the book. Have you ever wondered what makes a champion a champion? What has one person be a champion and another as or more talented be an also-ran? Research shows that it's how the champion thinks. Champions engage in what I call finish line thinking. And what is that? It's the science of how to think and win like a champion. You know, and I've had a lot of experience in working with Olympic champions, world record holders, business champions, and thought leaders. And I've also studied the research of folks like Dr. Anders Ericsson and Dr. Angela Lee Duckworth, which are two leading thought leaders in the arena of high performance. I lay out 13 principles of how to think and win like a champion. You know, and I'll read a couple of them out to you. So, embrace healthy eating as a lifestyle. Embrace daily exercise as a lifestyle. Expect to win. That intention's very powerful and important. Actively surround yourself with the support you need to win, you know, and become part of a community of supportive, like-minded peers, and set really, really big goals. So these are 6 of the 13 principles. They're fantastic. And I'll tell you a story about expect to win. So we have a client that we've been working with since October of 2023. And she's spectacular. She works in the arena of med spas. And she came in and she started working with us. She's excited about the work she's doing. She's investing a lot of money in herself and her success. And the type of work she does is a heavy-duty consult to set up a med spa. And these engagements are $300,000 and up. she expected to get that size of deal. And in April, working with myself and my sweet, lovely better half, who has a background in this whole world of clinics and psychology, she set up an event. She brought a bunch of prospects to that event and really wowed a few of them. And one of them, 2 days later, signed a $450,000 contract with her and gave her $380,000 upfront in a cashier's check. The expectation of victory is what did it. Now, sometimes she's a very driven person, but sometimes she needs help thinking things through and thinking her expertise through and her messaging through, which we helped her with tremendously. But she also needed someone there with her to believe in her. So Teresa went with her to that first presentation and said, "You got this." And she was there and made sure she felt supported. And if you ask me, Nicky, what makes you and your team special in the work we do? I don't know anybody else who does what we do the way we do it, that if our client needs us, we don't just do the scheduled call with the scheduled modules. We'll do whatever it takes to help our client win. Whatever.
That's awesome.
It's
really awesome.
That's really important. And I was very gratified to see this lady sign to
your point about expecting to win, you could see why, if you were in that situation, you might be nervous thinking, this is a lot of money. I don't know if anybody's going to do it. And it's going to be really hard to convince people and have enough conviction of what you're doing if you have that doubt. So I totally agree with the idea of expecting to win. It's something that I have worked on developing in myself. So anytime I start to feel self-conscious about something or insecure about it, I do think it's super important to always be able to focus on that and try to keep that in mind. So I know that you're big on personal branding and thought leadership. So can you give us an idea of what that exactly is, and how can somebody create a brand through thought leadership?
Man, great question. You've come up with a bunch of those. So let me draw a distinction between an expert and a thought leader. This isn't original to me. Matt Church said this, but an expert is someone who knows something. But most experts are invisible. That part is original to me. A thought leader, on the other hand, is someone who's known for knowing something, i.e. they're not invisible. They're very, very visible. They're professionally famous. Another fellow I interviewed on my show was David Meerman Scott. He's another fellow who was an advisor to Tony Robbins. And he said an expert is like a cover band while a thought leader plays original music. Yeah. Who's better known?
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah.
Right? And
yeah,
it's a really good analogy. So if you wish to be a successful coach, consultant, thought leader, the first thing you need to understand is what is going to allow me to be professionally famous. So I'll tell you a story. A few years back, we worked with a coach who was a fitness trainer. And I say this with total love and respect to this man, but he was as dumb as a post. He was a jock, a meathead, right? He made on a good month $1,300 on a good month, 18 grand a year, not a lot of money, right? And someone told him, you need to go speak with Nicky Billou, and we did. And I said to him, okay, pal, what's your expertise? Like, what do you? He says, listen, I know everything about health and fitness. I can help anybody solve any health and fitness problem. Lose weight, gain muscle, I can do it. And I said, that's great. And you're invisible with that. That's why you don't have any clients. Nobody can wrap their head around what's special about you. He said, okay, I get it. And I said, so let's look at changing that. And he said, you know what? I think I'm going to work with doctors. And I'm like, intriguing choice. Why? He says, well, my dad's a doctor. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And he said, doctors make a lot of money, don't they? So, I'm like, dude, that is not a point of difference for you. And they'll smell that you're going after them for the money. And then he said, no, I'm gonna give this a shot. He did for 6 months. He got 2 clients. And I said, hey, Dan, his name was Dan. I said, Danny, bud, it's not working. He said, yeah. He said, you always talk about narrowing your niche, and I do. He said, okay, I'm going to go for cardiologists. And I'm like, what? Why? He said, they make even more money than doctors. I'm like, Danny boy, you're not getting the message. He said, no, I'm doing this. 6 months, 0 cardiologists signed. So serendipity in the form of the good Lord intervened, introduced Danny to a Paralympic athlete, fella who lost a leg in a childhood accident, Papito Wilson. These two, they really hit it off. He started training this guy, and this guy won some medals at major international competitions. It was a big deal, right? Danny comes to me and says, Nicky, I owe you an apology. And I go, what for? He said, you've been trying to tell me something and I have not been listening. I said, that's true. He said, I'm not going to go after the money anymore. I said, good. He said, I want to work with people with missing limbs. I know what they're dealing with, and I know how to help them. And I just thought, my marketing brain went, great idea. Yeah, that's good. And my human heart went, wow, that's awesome. So Danny started to come up with some messaging with our help. And his messaging was, do you have a missing limb? And are you working out? Do you want to work out? You can work out. You can do anything anyone else can do.
Yeah.
It's a very simple message.
It's powerful, though.
Very, very simple message. Dude, now you keep in mind that Danny was working with maybe 7 clients at his heyday, right? 6 weeks of this, Danny signed up. Brett, wait for it.
400
clients.
In 6 weeks.
400 clients. No marketing funnel, no ad spend.
Yeah.
Powerful message, and went viral.
Incredible.
Word of mouth. Now, Danny did one-on-one personal training. You cannot, with one trainer, train 400 people.
I don't care how motivated you are.
It's
there
not
aren't enough
possible.
hours in a day for that.
It's. Danny came to me after he signed his 50th client and said, help. I need a new way to help these people. So we created what at the time was relatively new, and that was online training. So he had a Zoom meeting and he worked with people one-on-one, and they did their own workouts and checked in with him. It's accountability. So here's the best part. Danny's making $1,200-1,300 on a good month. He had $100,000 plus months.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
And do you remember at the beginning of this, I said, with love and affection, Danny's dumb as a post? Right?
Well,
not so dumb after
we
all,
all
right?
know
Not so
that,
dumb after
that,
all.
intelligence and IQ are not going to be the things that ultimately determine your success.
No.
It's a lot more goes into it than that. So
Absolutely.
if somebody else was in whatever business, whatever industry, there's an entrepreneur out there and they want to position themselves as a thought leader, build a brand around that so they can get clients coming to them instead of needing to fight for it or sell for it. What do you recommend? Like, how would they do that?
So look, I have a book, and you can go on Amazon and buy it. or you can get a free Kindle copy by going to ecircleacademy.com/TLJ book. It's called The Thought Leader's Journey. It will lay all that out for you. Now, I like hard copy books, right? And I'm not cheap. I like paying for books. But if you want the free copy, go get it or get this book. But I'll tell you in a nutshell. Number one is you need to make a decision that you're going to do this, right? You got to be decisive. You can't be like, should I, shouldn't I? No. You need to commit. You need to remember you're going to suck at this for a while before you become any good at it. So you got to commit to that process. Then you need to be coachable and hire a great coach. Robin Sharma, who was a client of mine when I was a fitness trainer, said to me, if you ever want to double your income in a given year, triple your investment in personal and professional development.
Yeah.
He's right. You got to hire the coaches, join the masterminds, do the courses, buy the books, attend the conferences. So do that. And then finally, you got to be resourceful. You got to be super, super resourceful. So do all that, and that will get you to the promised
And I
land.
think, you know, the other element from my experience, I think that's also really important, and you touched on it, but just to point it out in particular is the consistency of it. You know, I've seen a lot of people, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs try things, they get an idea for something, so there's all that initial excitement. And so they jump in with both feet and they have all the right intentions, but their expectation is that they're going to get results really quickly. And when the results don't come right away, what happens is the enthusiasm starts to wane, and it becomes more and more difficult to keep going because they don't see the results right away. And at least in my experience, from just about everything I've done, I've found that consistency when you're doing things is so important, because oftentimes you're that close to the breakthrough when you give up. There's something that's right around the corner from you, and if you just kept going, you would have found it. But if you don't have the fortitude or the vision or the purpose to want to keep going, then you potentially would give up too soon. So,
Agreed.
Among your accomplishments, I know that you founded the eCircle Academy, and I wanted to talk about this because I think it's super important. Can you share with us what that is, why you started it?
It's kind of like a hall of justice for superhero, heart-driven entrepreneurs in a nutshell.
I love that. I used to watch the Hall of
what
Justice Super Friends episodes. Loved it.
I know,
Yeah.
right? That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, truly, truly. And we do a number of things for people. Like this thing about selling, we put our money where our mouth is. Like I have a 12-week sales accountability program. I bring in good people in there, and I kick their butts, and I make them sell, and I get them paid. We call it 90K in 90 days. The goal is to make at least an extra 90K in 90 days. We've had dudes do a hell of a lot more than that, and we've had dudes do like an extra 30 grand, and they'd never done that much money in 90 days, so they were thrilled with that. But it's really powerful. One accountant, tax accountant, very, very soft-spoken fellow, he did 89,500 in 90 days, and his previous best 90-day period was 30 grand.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that
that's awesome.
That was pretty awesome. What we do, man, in that is you're part of a community of good people. So that egregore energy of everybody pushes you out of your comfort zone. We do weekly calls with everybody as a group. There's a Facebook group, and in there, there's a whole lot of posting of successes, of gratitudes, just to get the energy up. And then there's some coaching calls that we do with people one-on-one just to keep them on track. If they need more than that, we give them more than that. So that's kind of where we start. We have a specific program on podcast guesting. We call it Get Booked and Get Paid. We show you how to become a guest on a show and generate leads and sales from it. And then we have a thought leadership 3-day workshop that we do 4 times a year, all about hammering your messaging down and really showing you how to become a thought leader. And then we got an ongoing mastermind around thought leadership as well. So that's kind of the nuts and the bolts of the various programs.
Awesome. And so are those open to the public? Where, if somebody wanted to get involved and somebody wanted to get more information about that, how would they do that?
Honestly, the best thing to do is just jump on a calendar of mine and let's have a call. And if I can't do it, I'll get somebody on the team to do it with you. But I do my best to do most of the calls myself. There's going to be a time where that's going to become impossible, but I just like it. I just love it. I love talking to people, mixing it up. Let's have a call. The link for that is ecircleacademy.com/appointment. This Get Booked and Get Paid workshop, it's a relatively lower ticket program. It's $2,000. So there's a landing page with everything about it. We do that a few times a year. The next one's in June 14, 15. And the website for that is ecircleacademy.com/get-booked. So those are some places you can go to check some things out.
Awesome. So my last question is that I always have to ask is if you could only give one tip to entrepreneurs who are starting a business or they want to start a business, what would that be?
Start immediately.
Take action.
Don't think about it. Start.
You know, it's funny you say that because when I was looking in to start digital marketing, I was actually in graduate school, raising a family, working full time. And what I realized is I wanted more control over my own time. And so despite the fact that it was really hard to start a business at that point, I started looking into this whole digital marketing thing back in the early 2000s. I didn't know much about it. And what I did for my first 3 months was learn. I was looking at all this information. And what occurred to me is I was getting smarter, but I was getting broker because I wasn't doing anything. And it wasn't until I actually took action and did the first step to actually start doing things that anything changed. And once it did, that was the start of the whole journey. And you just have to embrace the fact that it's uncomfortable and that you're not going to be good at it initially. Work through that. And then eventually you come out the other side and you look back at that and say, wow, I can't believe at one point, that's what I was doing and now I'm doing this. So that's awesome. Okay, well, with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Nicky, for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. It was really awesome. And again, you can go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment to get a complimentary breakthrough call to help get clear on why you're stuck and get a roadmap to get unstuck and take things to the next level. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise. optYOUmize.